action. Hi everybody, it's me JVR coming at you another Theater Thursday. As you know, every Thursday I do a movie review. This time I'm going to be doing the Bee movie because it's going to be spring soon. I wanted to do like something that represents like the environment and stuff like that. But if you haven't seen this movie, if you don't know anything about it, consider this your spoiler alert. Take it in. Okay. So, the Bee movie, before it was known for the great, repeating, meme, it was known as the movie, and it stars this little bee. His name is Barry. And he's not like the other bees. Like, the other bees, like, obviously all these bees live in a hive, and they all, like, are expected to, like, how can I explain this? Like, they're all expected to follow a certain, like, schedule. Like, they're expected to follow a certain, like, point of life, and then that's just it. Like, they're supposed to pick a job, they go to school, they pick a job, and then that's it. They just work for that job every day for the rest of their life, and there's no changes, there's no excuses, and there's no days off. So you just work 365 days a year, no matter what, and that's just it. Barry doesn't, like, want that, like, that typical staying in one place type of job. He wants to, like, see the world and, like, move from place to place to place. So, like, he wants to try to be what's called a polyjock, which is a type of bee that, like, collects the pollen and, like, helps the flowers and stuff like that. But obviously he's, like, small, like, smaller, and, like, not, in a way you're bred to be, like, a pollen jock. Like, you're big and you're tough. Like, he's kind of tiny, and he's, like, expected to be, like, I guess a little bit of a rookie or like a failure in a way. And, like, so, but when it's time for him to pick his job before he, like, really settles on a choice, because everybody wants him to be, like, more, I guess, like the other bees where they follow that schedule. Like, his dad wants him to be a stirrer, which is where you stir the honey, because that's what he was. He decides to go on a trial of going outside the hive and being, not exactly being a polyjock, but he watches what the polyjocks do, and he sees, like, what, I guess, the outside and what, going from that, he sees that experience of, changing every day. And, so he, like, really gets interested in, like, in the job, but obviously he kind of, like, other people try to, like, diss him on what he wants to do. And, like, when he's outside, he actually gets caught in the rain. And so you're not supposed to fly in rain because when your wings get wet, you can't fly. So when his wings get wet, he ends up in, like, a potted plant on the side of, like, an apartment, and he ends up almost getting squished because he goes inside the house thinking he sees a light bulb, and he thinks it's the sun. And then so he hits into it and he falls, and then the humans see him and they almost squish him. But then there's this woman who saves his life. Her name is Vanessa.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry. Wrong thing. God damn it. Vanessa. Shut up. I told you I'm tired today. I was telling my mom how my dog woke me up this morning. I told you I'm tired, okay? Sorry, moving on. So anyway, Vanessa saves his life, and she says, like, trying to explain to her boyfriend that, like, all how life has value. And, like, that, just because he's a bee and just because he's, like, known to sting, that shouldn't, like, go against, I guess, his character, I guess, if you want to say. So, like, when she saves his life, he tries to, like, ration what he should do about it. Because, like, he wants to thank her for saving his life, but, it's another rule against bees. You're not supposed to talk to humans. So, but he decides to go against it, and he ends up talking to her. And then she, she's like, "You're a bee! You're not supposed to talk!" And then they end up, like, becoming really close friends, and, like, he ends up seeing her, like, daily and stuff. And obviously, he tells his, like, friend about it, and she's like, "Oh, no, you're not talking to humans." He's like, "That's not what's done here." And, they try to, again, get him back to, I guess, the bee life. And, and obviously it's not, like, what he wants, I guess. Like that typical, in a way, it's kind of like, I guess, a stereotypical, like, imagine working at a cubicle, I guess, like, staring at the same things, doing the same things, whatever. But, he ends up, when he's out with her one day, they go to the supermarket, and he sees a bunch of, like, obviously when you go to a store, there's, like, a honey section, like a honey aisle. And he's like, what's this? And then she's like, oh, it's honey. And he's like, I know it's honey. What's it doing here? And then she's like, well, we eat it. And so in his, obviously to us, like, that's normal. We eat, bees make honey and we eat it. But to Barry, he didn't know. He didn't know that humans eat it. He didn't know that, like, in a way, to him, it's stealing because, like, that's what they do. That's what they, like, it's hard to make it, and it's, like, it's everything that they are. So, like, he ends up teaming up with Vanessa to sue the human race for, I guess, stealing honey or using honey in inappropriate ways, at least. So he, like, goes to court, and then it's him against, like, I guess this other guy who represents honey companies and stuff. And then, like, Barry ends up fighting with him, saying that all these things, when you think about it, are very offensive to bees. Like, when you buy a jar of honey, it's in a bear jar. That's offensive because bears kill bees. There's the guy, they feature the guy from the police. His last name is Sting, so obviously that's offensive, and a bunch of other things. So leading up to these things, they actually end up winning the case. But at the same time, before they, at the same time, they, so they collect, like, all the honey, and, like, they don't want anybody using it in, like, teas, and even small, like, normal amounts, and eventually, because there's no honey, because there's no reason to continue to, like, collect pollen to make more honey, eventually all the plants start to die, and obviously, like, pollution stops, and, like, all the plants start to wilt, and the world, in a way, starts to die, and, like, it's all Barry's fault, and he didn't realize that doing something, in a way, so small could, like, make such a big change. And so he tries to team up with Vanessa to see, like, what they can do about it, but there's, like, in a way, nothing they can do. But then she ends up saying that before this whole thing happened, there was going to be this flower festival. She was going to go see it anyway, but now that all the flowers are dying, they moved up the date. So now she's going to go see the flower festival. So they make up a plan that they go to the flower festival, they steal a bunch of it's like a regular parade, but the parade's made out of flowers, like the floats. So they steal a float, and then they're going to wrap up the flowers of the float, bring it on a plane back to where they live, and then repollinate everywhere. So they go through with this, and then they get it on the plane, but then what happens is that there's, like, a slight storm, so, like, they can't, so there's going to be a delay, and if they delay any further, then obviously the flowers will wilt, and they'll die too, and this is our last chance. So Barry goes to the captain to go talk to him about maybe trying to see if they could get there any faster, but then when he went to go talk to them, obviously the captains didn't know that it was Barry or whatever, so he tried to squish him, and then they accidentally knocked themselves out with, like, an inflatable boat that's in the cockpit. So Barry talks to the people over the thing, and he's like, can Miss Vanessa Bloom please come to the cockpit? And then she comes in, and the pilots are knocked out. She's like, what did you do? And he's like, oh, now they're both unconscious. And then so she has to fly the plane. And obviously she's not doing very good because she doesn't know how. She's only a florist. So he ends up getting help from the other bees, like a bunch of the other bees. So they, like, hold the plane up, and then they have to, she, like, lands it, and then the bees create, like, a flower, like, a place to land. And, like, this is, like, the first time, like, his bee instincts, I guess, kick in, and, like, it's his instincts, like, telling him to bring the nose of the plane down, so he tells Vanessa to drop it on the yellow flower, and then they land it, and then they let the luggage go, and it's all the flowers. And then Barry makes a huge speech about how this is their last chance to repollinate the earth, so, like, let's work together and let's do it. And then he becomes a pollen jock. They actually make him a pollen jock. So then he collects the pollen from these flowers, and then he spreads it all through the other flowers, and then it all turns green, and it's all healthy again. And then, you know, you come to the end of the movie, and, like, he runs... Vanessa has a flower shop. She's a florist. So he runs her florist shop together. They run it together, and he, like, also does law, like, to help other animals with similar issues. Like, he sits with a cow about milk and cheese and yogurt and things. And, like, he, you know, still is a pollen jock, and he, like, flies around. Overall, it's a cute movie. It has a good message of take care of the earth and, like, you know, I guess in a certain way, you know, watch what you do with the environment. You know, I'm not saying you have to be like a Captain Planet type, you know, whatever, trying to be like so strict, but you know, recycle and like try to, you know, save electricity and like other things that would help the environment. You know, like don't, I guess, it's about not taking stuff for granted, and, like, we should appreciate what we have, that type of thing. If I had to rate the movie 1 out of 5, I'll give it, like, I guess, like a 4.5. It's not a bad movie, it's just, you know, it's just okay. Like, it's not my favorite movie ever. It's just a cute movie in general, like, you know what I'm saying? But you see the movie for yourself and tell me what you guys think. But that wraps up this video. If you have any suggestions, write down in comments, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!